Welcome. My name is Jerry Cabazzuto from godislovetruthlife.com or godislovetruthfreedom.com because a life without freedom is not a life worth living. And today I am welcoming back Dr. Dustin Plattner. He is a therapist, teacher, an esoteric researcher, and digital privacy activist. He runs an online private practice, teaches on esoteric sciences, and created and maintains a privacy-preserving computer system. Dr. Plattner deeply enjoys learning about philosophy and ancient knowledge that aim to elucidate the mechanics of human freedom and psychological health, with the goal of bringing this knowledge into practical and usable solutions that bring freedom to all. Welcome, Dr. Dustin.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate this opportunity. It's really exciting. We haven't been in the space for a while, so this is great. We were talking about this before, and you mentioned it. I thought it was such a great idea, and you're so generous to host people and have me back on. So thank you.
Of course. Yeah. I've always been a fan of your work. I love the way you, especially in your recent vlog series, of sort of connecting and alchemizing, the psychological with the esoteric. I would love to learn more about, this series and how it came about.
Yes, yeah, of course. You know, that's something I've fallen into recently, maybe over the last year now, of trying to uh, put together what I've learned in my academic learning, my academic education through clinical psychology. I received my master's in clinical psych and then my doctorate in clinical psych. So I really enjoyed that. And then further moving beyond that process, I learned in my postdoctoral work more about psychoanalytic work, which is more diving deep into the unconscious of the individual, which psychology quite doesn't cover as much, but psychoanalytic work really does. And I learned it with children, mothers and babies and children, adolescents, and how to do that process with kids. So that's been really exciting. And then over the years, really beginning to learn about the esoteric sciences and how nature really works and the foundations of how nature works. And really come to understand that we live in a world where we don't really get the true freedoms that are us as a species are designed for. We're not getting those true freedoms. We really get a lot of heavy processes pushed on us that will make us do things that we don't want to do. So, we could talk about these really heavy-handed governments. We could talk about the atrocities that go on with war, and we could talk about how even our purchasing power of the dollar or whatever fiat currency you have, that gets eroded away. So there's a lot of energy externally that's not giving us the freedom we deserve, in terms of being a true person that's caring and loving into the world. And so those dilemmas are a problem, and we'll get more into specifics on that. But then how to take in psychological concepts, esoteric concepts, and then how to apply those ideas to help solve problems that are all around us, so suffering can be reduced in the world. We really want to reduce suffering. And so, yeah, those are some of my thoughts. So when I'm making the vlog, I'm trying to combine all those things together in a way that's understandable and palpable, usable for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking about, sort of making it accessible, sort of digestible, I'm noticing, and I'm moving in this direction too as a content creator, that you're kind of bringing things into more shorter chunks. Tell
Yes.
me about that decision making. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good observation. Yeah. Right now, the way things have gone, it's I think it is unfortunate. It plays off of this part in us as a species where things that are novel, we pull our attention to it and we quickly try to assess what's going on. And so our attention can get pulled really quickly on novel things. So in a social media reel that throws up something like 30 seconds or a minute, it keeps pulling our attention that way. And it exploits that in us. So therefore, a problem then, our attention spans don't expand, they contract. And so to get good information to folks, we're running content creators are running up against this dilemma because good information takes time. Reading takes time. And that's antithetical to a quick burst of some video that you're seeing on social media. So getting these concepts across, I'm trying to sort of navigate that happy medium of getting enough information across where it's interesting, it's understandable is the best I can do it, and it would inspire the person to sort of dig further and dig deeper if they so choose to. Having something so quick and short, I can't really get the information across as I would like to, and so I expand my vlogs to about 6 minutes. And then there's sort of pills that people can take in and then move from there. That's what I've observed. I enjoy doing that, and I think folks, they could, just see it real quick, and then they can move on. And hopefully, over the time, the vlog series that I make, it'll keep adding up where they'll gain information like scaffolding in psychology. They'll start gaining information more and more. So they should have a pretty good introductory concept of psychological processes, esoteric processes, the esoteric sciences and mystery traditions, and how those two disciplines come together to then help alleviate the suffering in the planet that we're all witnessing. Like I said, all the things of wars and governments and things like that just do not help us thrive. So that is the aim of the vlog, but also trying to get it down to some minutes that are digestible.
Absolutely. I sort of talked about this before we started recording, but I'm learning in my own personal journey and then sort of watching your vlog series that a lot of this stems from, why aren't we as a collective coming off the base floor is because of self-loathing. Talk more about why this is and how this comes about and how this creates these worldviews that people have.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big concept I was trying to highlight in my vlog, and I've talked about before in some of longer format videos I've made. But yeah, good concept, Jerry. That's such a big issue. The way I see it and the way I've put it together, and I think a lot of the mystery traditions, the esoteric sciences, those sort of synonymous, and psychology can point to it, but psychology doesn't point to how self-loathing then impacts the symptoms of such things. So I'm trying to, of course, bridge that gap. So self-loathing is the concept of self-hatred. I originally heard this concept as it's tied to freedom from Mark Passio's work, and it really inspired me to keep processing this. But so it means self-hatred. Um, so if someone hates themselves, they're not going to their actions are not going to choose things that are for them in the external world. And what I mean by this, I'm not talking, I hate myself. Maybe some people might say that, but I'm talking it's more of an unconscious or preconscious idea that's in them. And that would be the self-loathing issue. So what that can look like are negative thought patterns in your mind. So in your day to day, oh, this is never going to work out. Like these self talks, you would say, oh, this is not going to work out. Oh man, he's so smarter than me, or she's more beautiful than I am, or whatever it might be. It can work in the form of comparison, like I was just sharing. It's a way of of self-deprecating. It's a way of, in your mind, of cutting you down, cutting you at the knees, your self-talk, your self-thought, and your energy around that. If you have a global sort of day-to-day where you're constantly running that into your internal world, you probably then have a high propensity for self-loathing. You probably are in a self-loathing state, right? So that's I'm sort of shooting from the hip, a quick psychological way to think about self-loathing. Now, the symptoms on that, what does that then produce and how does that affect the world around us? In a self-loathing state, it's very hard for us to take responsibility. And since we're unable to take responsibility, we will want to put it off to somebody else. Then we can blame someone else. Then we can say they're the one that did it, or that's the root. Well, that process will keep you terribly stuck, and it doesn't give you freedom, right? So now, since that's the case, what I talk about in my vlog series is, if the majority of us on the planet have more propensity for self-loathing, above average self-loathing, right? And we're sort of in that negative cycle. Well, there's organizations and ideologies that will rise up around us, and I call them psychopathic entrepreneurs. They see
That's awesome.
they see uh, a market, and they want to exploit that market. So then they sell a product to all the self-loathing masses. And that product is, hey, we'll take responsibility. We'll take the responsibility, and we'll even give you some benefits and privileges while you do this. So you can relax and you can, not have to deal with the difficulties of taking responsibility for your own life. We'll take the responsibility of protecting everyone. We'll take the responsibility of um, feeding people and making sure people are housed and clothed. We'll take all that responsibility so you don't have to do that. And since the majority of our species is self-loathing, we're going to buy that product. We just are, because it's harder to say, no, I need to look at myself, right? And I need to say, what am I doing that's giving away my responsibility? Because when we do that, then now we're in a contract. Now that system works. And then whatever these psychopathic entrepreneurs sort of concoct next, then we're in that stream and we never get out of it. And we go further and further into control, and they get further and further into power. So self-loathing perpetuates government slavery. So this is how that works.
Mic drop. I was like sitting here nodding. Like, I just love it synthesizes so many different concepts. Like, similar to, how I was sort of, digesting Mark's work. It's like, there's all these like various sort of disciplines, but you really like brought it all together. And yeah, it makes sense. It's a very unique thesis.
Yeah, thank you. And again, so then how do we change it, right? And this is where the esoteric mystery traditions come in. How do we change this? Well, we can't change it on the plane of effect. So as we know, cause and effect. And that's the law of cause and effect. The Kabbalion and Hermetic philosophy talks, this is a essential law of how the universe works. And it's true. In this realm, it is true. So if there is an effect, high government control, a lot of suffering, because of what governments do and how people evade responsibility, and then people's morality falls down. They'll do things for money because that's just these massive symptoms. They'll break natural law for money. They'll break moral principles for money. All these things, these symptoms just keep going really bad. So if you try to change, in the external environment, that's the effect. If you try to change that effect out there, it will not work. And this is done by, as we've seen over centuries, re-electing a new leader, or changing a law, which that's all just make-believe. But trying to change these things externally, where that won't cause anything. That won't change the cause. You have to go to the plane of cause, right? So then that means, what I'm saying is, I'm holding a mirror in front of the listener and I'm saying, you're the reason why it's happening. We all are the reason why this has happened. And that is the other esoteric principle of the Hermetic principle of the law of correspondence. As above, so below, as within, so without. This is what I talk about in my series. If you're seeing something externally that you don't like, put a mirror in front of your face and look at what have I done to cause this? Because as a collective, this is what springs up of the symptom. It's a disease. So if, like a cut, if it gets infected, it's going to have these symptoms coming out of it. Well, if you just wipe away whatever's coming out of the wound, you just wipe it away. That's not really, you have to figure out what's happening. You got to get to the root of what it is. So the root is the internal. You have to look at the internal, which goes back to what I was saying about taking responsibility. And that means then that connects to the self-loathing. You have to begin to work on your self-hatred, right? Self-hatred, healing, then you take responsibility, healing, and then the external world starts to heal, because you won't buy their product anymore. You're like, no, thank you. I'll take responsibility for myself. I don't need you to do something for me, right? Then the external starts healing. But all the root goes all the way down to the very bottom of your own self-love. Really, we're talking about self-love. So there's that.
I love it. I so I wasn't planning on asking you this, but I sort of we're kind of in a catch-22 situation, It's really up to the listener, others to do their inner work. It's like
Yes.
talking to like an addict and say, "Hey, you need to go in recovery." But I mean, we can say all these things, but it's really up to them to do the work. And like, I've had like a little, just friendly sort of debates about this. Like, how do we get them started if it's up to them? And like, we could yell at them, we can invite them, divine masculine, feminine sort of approaches, but like, how do we get them to do this work when it's not really up to us for them to do it? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, if I had two things that come to my mind. One thing is, if we start with the individual, us, you, Jerry, and me, what we have to do, what I have to do is, I have to make sure that in my day-to-day rhythm and my internal thoughts and how I view myself, I have to make sure that I'm thinking about things that are abundant and things that create love. I have to make sure that if my mind goes to a position where it's in fear and it's constricting and it pulls me back down to a base level, I have to take that responsibility and by my will shift my thinking, by my will, and I align my will to the truth. The truth is that I am very powerful. My imagination is very powerful. This is what the esoteric sciences and mystery traditions have taught us over and over, how powerful we are. And the root of that power, the core, is our imagination. So it can either create abundance or it can create fear. In Kabbalistic terms, when thoughts, they share that when thoughts are created in abundance, it creates angels. When thoughts that are in fear creates demons. So they really work with this position. They're really, really attuned to the power of our imagination, how it can create or destroy. So my job from the day to day is to create angels. My job is to be in abundance by my will, because if I do it by my will, then I actually create it externally. Same with you, Jerry. Your job is to use your will to create angels. Then we inspire. In Kabbalistic terms, we are the light, as I shared with you before, Jerry. We are the light. The light can only give. It can only give. There was a quote, Dion Fortune said it, the divine unbounded energy, the uncreated energy. It's there, but it hasn't been created yet. So by our will, we mimic the light that's just creative energy, and we share it out to others, right? So that's how we inspire. First, we inspire ourselves, and then we inspire others. A part of that then is, since we love ourselves, then we also model. I'm talking this in psychology, that just came to my mind. Modeling. I'm modeling, as the listener here, I'm modeling how to frame it. I'm modeling to you, Jerry. And then also a part of modeling, when you love yourself and you're not in fear of the self-loathing, you will do things to protect yourself. You will say no to things that disparage you. You will say no to things that put you into contracts, which takes away your freedoms, your God-given right to do any behavior that does not initiate harm to another sentient being. That is all of our rights. That is our right. Our right is an action. And we then will protect those rights in us. That's the power of love, not in fear. So to answer your question, I put those pieces out there, but yes, that is how we navigate that space. First, again, the mirror in front of us, we inspire, and then we do actions that come from within, which is the love for ourselves, which then echoes out to the external.
I love all of that. Yeah, so many thoughts are coming in right now. I'm also thinking about, where, and I'm looking at psychology, whoops, like, this idea of like self-loathing, like we weren't loved enough in our childhoods.
Mhm.
And, like you said, we can be the models. Once we've developed our own sense of self-love, we can shine that out and be the models that the others didn't get in
Yes,
their childhood, and just hopefully like several decades later, like give them some sense of mirror that they never got, you know?
yes. That's another thing of being the light, and being a light to others, but also being a light to ourselves. And if we go down the road of psychology here for a moment, as you brought up the self-loathing in our childhoods and where we've grown up, right? Being a good parent to ourselves. So there's been a lot of books about the inner child and good parenting, be a parent to yourself, all these things. And to spend a little bit of time with that, being a good parent is, as you were mentioning prior about divine masculine, divine feminine, is this process of nurturing and caring for ourselves internally in our day-to-day thinking, in our mind and in our emotion. And then also more the divine masculine of the setting the boundaries that we need for ourselves. And this is all done in a balanced way where it's always foundationalized in love. There's love that pushes both parental energies. We push the parental energy inside of us, the feminine and the masculine. That is the concept and the idea on how we move forward and parent ourselves as adult, to reparent ourselves. And it gets tricky, and more down the road of psychology here. It gets tricky because we are all on a range of psychological trauma when we're little, to really severe trauma, that could be, we think satanic ritual abuse. We could think all kinds of abuses that children have to continually go through in environments that are not conducive to raising a child, to all the way to the other range where it's a connected family where there's a good parenting energy of divine masculine, divine feminine. You have both parents. You have a connected family. The parents are aware. They are cognizant. They try to be well. They're developed themselves. So where there's less trauma, right? There's a range. Okay. So all of us are on different aspects of that range. And obviously it's just a bummer, but some people have harder roads to climb up than others. It just is what it is. And what's also a bummer is the more traumatized you are, the more you don't want to start working on your inner life, because it's just too painful. It's too scary. It's too painful. And you don't realize, if you're heavily traumatized, you don't realize there's actually good people in the world and safe people that you can process it with, right? More often you would think that the world is quite hostile and exploitive. So our traumas as children, we're on a range, and it's all of our responsibilities to begin that journey of healing. And as you begin that journey of healing, then the self-loathing, dissipates, and more self-love and all that stuff can move forward. So that's another piece on it. We have the psychological component of our childhood traumas. And if that's not dealt with, and then we keep buying the product of these institutions and ideologies, and then we purchase that product, then we're really, really stuck. We're on the base floor. So in my vlog, I talk about the first degree tracing board in Freemasonry. It's that checkerboard floor. And in that mystery tradition, you have to get off the floor. You're not a binary black and white. You begin to move into a robust, sophisticated, spiritual being who actually what's in you. That's who you're supposed to be. And so not dealing with the self-loathing, the self-hatred, and the root of the childhood trauma, and then plus buying their product, you're on that bait, and we're not moving. And unfortunately, I would say a majority, I don't know, maybe 90% of humanity is on that base floor, and hence the suffering that we see all around us. Yes, life has gotten better over the years of abject poverty. There's more abundant things. We're not so barbaric, at least what's typically seen is what we can notice. We're not so barbaric as it was. We have like air conditioning. We have clean water. Most of us have clean water. There's places that offer abundance. This is true, as I guess history has shown that it got really barbaric back in the day. Okay. However, there are a tremendous amount of suffering that still goes on that keeps people enslaved. And for that to get better, we're just going to have to begin to get off the base floor. That's just what it's going to have to be.
Yeah, and not only are you sort of doing this work to the adults, but you're also wanting to bring energy to those root causes with the parenting. Obviously, you're working with parents and families, but I would love to sort of switch gears and talk a little bit about your naturallawparenting.com website and how, this is all part of that process of getting people off the floor.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, thanks, Jerry. Yeah, as I talked about, I I I, s- I still have the creative energy of blending these systems and disciplines together, and I really enjoy working with parents and helping them navigate um, the ups and downs of mm, growing their child and being there for their child. And there's a lot of information out there, as there has been for a long time. A lot of it's good, a lot of it is probably not the most helpful, where parents get information to help their children grow. And the natural law part of parenting, natural law is just understanding the rhythms of nature. And obviously, you'd want to raise your child in line with how nature works, how things in nature works, like the law of cause and effect, like the law of correspondence, like we talked about, um, this law of morality. And what I was sharing before, and what you were alluding to too, Jerry. Well, you can't steal property from people. If it's an innocent person, you just can't do that. If you want to have suffering be reduced in the world, you can steal. We have the free will to do whatever we want. However, if we begin to raise our children to understand that if you do this, steal property from other people, um, you will suffer, and it creates suffering in the world. So it's aligning parental concepts in with nature and how nature works. And not only can I help parents navigate that space, then also all the emotionality of the how to be with the child and help them grow emotionally, tying that in. So parents get a really robust idea on how to be with their child as they navigate their stages of development. And so I have that group where parents can get together. I give an information on what the concept each, it's 4 weeks, what each week is going to take, and then what each week is going to be about. And then we talk about it, and then we'll go the next week and we'll process the parents through that. So and the stealing piece of the natural law parenting, to be real quick, and I've said this before with you, Jerry, and it's, if people haven't heard that concept before, it's just basic understanding of decency um, between each other, right? And so we all have our own properties. We all have our properties of my life is my property, the bodily integrity of what I don't get beat up, that's the safety of that. That's my property. Where who we relate to sexually, that's my property, that's my choice, right? The things that I possess rightfully, that's my property. Having a peaceful place to stay and not get invaded, that's my property, right? That'd be trespass if someone did that. And then my fully informed decision. So when I make a decision, I'm fully informed by the person offering the connection. So that would be deception if that's done. And then my free will choice. And that's also my property. That's coercion. So um, that's just very basic. And we learn this as children, basically in kindergarten. We learn it a lot, but I don't think it's taught so succinctly and clearly as a foundation in family structures, because um, it's important for a child to know that that's the framework. Now, what happens though as we get older, the world the way that it is can really press on us, and we might have to be a bit deceptive sometimes. We might, this is the idea that goes in people's minds, we might have to be a bit deceptive. We might have to maybe Deceptive is probably the easiest one, but we might, people might want to steal or something like that, or if they see their parents doing that. So it's easy to say, parents like, well, I teach my children that. That's true. But as we get older, we're pressed on where that morality structure can get shaken. And my job is to help parents see the importance of that and to keep that as primary in their dynamic, which then allows the child to grow psychologically in safety. If the family has a concept of understanding we don't steal from people, we're not deceptive, we don't do those things, that is the foundation of our family. That then gives safety for everyone to grow at their maximum capacity. I'm saying it's not highlighted so much in parenting, and it needs to be highlighted more. It's the golden rule. I talk a lot about that in my psychological work. It's the golden rule, and that has to be foundationalized. And it's not about religion. It's not about those concepts. It's about really balancing in with nature. And so it's really important that we as we as parents and the next generation moving forward gets that in their bones, so then they can have the framework in which to hang their self-love and not go into self-loathing, and then they won't buy the products of the psychopathic entrepreneurs, and then we see more freedom in the world. Hopefully that was a bit clear, but yeah, I was trying to navigate that space.
You're just like I love how you are so good at systems thinking. You really do. You see the big picture and you like go from the details to the bigger picture. I love that. And then, speaking of systems, not only are have your vlog on freeasabove.xyz, you got your naturallawparenting.com. You also in your systems thinking, have sovereignsystems.com, which people may not know about.
Yeah, thanks, dear. So again, there's another process of my mind. You said systems thinking. My mind can work really well with computers, and I like puzzles as well. And so it's another problem where the big technology has just overtaken our whole digital lives. It's really bad. And that's why I'm a digital privacy advocate, because yeah, we're FaceTiming people, we're on Zooms, we're text messaging people, our families, all this stuff, and it's all centralized on big giant servers. And then it's getting even more worse of having IDs to be online and giving away your information that way. You have to sign up with an email. Then eventually, I think they're going to try to push into, they are the psychopathic entrepreneurs, the folks that run these big tech companies that are behind the curtain behind most of them. What they're trying to push is basically, before you view websites, you have to give a government ID to view websites. And it really is a place where we are unable to be free and unencumbered by demands when we are doing any action that does not initiate harm to another sentient being. So there has to be other choices, and there's good software out there that helps you circumvent all of that and just be in a different system where you can communicate free, where anyone who's using the software can communicate freely, can do video and voice calls freely, can have their own cloud storage freely without any of it's completely outside, it's in parallel. And then I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, so even using Bitcoin to even circumvent their whole system, to be outside in parallel. And all this software exists. and only really sort of the big tech nerds and geeks build it. And it's really not accessible to the everyday person. So I've built a system that puts all that together. It replaces your entire computer, because you don't really want to be using Windows or Apple, because it's not good. You got to have an ID to use the stuff. It sends, you don't know where servers it's going. It's a mess. So I'm trying to get ahead of the curve and help people access that software in an easy to use package. So it replaces your whole computer, and then it has all these services running, where all you have to do is plug it in and run it basically, and then everything's already run. There's no need to install. So that's what I've been also trying to build, to make it easy for folks to have freedom in their digital life. So not only am I trying to help people have freedom in their inner life, so then there's freedom externally, but also the components, because I like computer stuff. So then I tried to create that as well. And I use it. I've been using it, my systems, for like 4 or 5 years, and I love it. And so, yeah, so that's what also I've been doing in that process.
Yeah, if it weren't for my sort of like life transitions that I'm moving through, if I had like a settled situation, I highly recommend people go and buy one of these systems. I did, and once my life is a bit more settled, I would love to set that all up.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I think also I'm noticing like you host your own video like for like when you publish. That's awesome. Because like I'm tired of using these
Yeah.
platforms, man.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, um, and it's wise to if you do content creation, it's very wise to have control of your own content. So if one of these really awful tech companies pull it down, then you have a copy of it. And so with the Sovereign Systems, it's a computer called the Sovereign Pro. I named it the Sovereign Pro, and it runs its own WordPress on it. And so all the data you feed to it is stored on that computer. So it doesn't matter whatever server pulls your other stuff down, you always have a copy of it, because everything's running from your own website on that own computer. So that's the system I make. It's your own computer. It has all your information, and all your communication goes through that. It doesn't go through any other server. It goes only through your computer in your home. So you're completely sovereign. That's the whole thing. And then you don't have
Yeah,
to pay
there's
hosting fees and all that stuff. You don't pay all that silliness, because all you do is you're paying for your internet, and then you're hosting everything. But again, you don't have to do anything. It's already installed. All you have to do is create the website or get it going how you like it, but all the back end's already done. So yes.
You know, I love the model that you're giving to humanity of just the will and the care. Like you're doing so much, you have so much like I see it through just the projects that you're building, that your sites and stuff. And I think it's just so inspiring and like um if I may ask a more personal question, because I'm struggling with this, like I vacillate, right? Like sometimes I'm like, I'm a go-getter, like I'm just gonna like, you know, do this music festival, like get this podcast done, like, get the street interview done. And then other days I'm like, what, like I get these black pill kind of moments, like people aren't
Yes.
listening, they're not like
Yes.
really doing
Yes,
anything. And so
Jerry.
how do you navigate that emotionally as a content creator, as a freedom fighter?
Yes, that's a really good point. Um, I don't know. I'll, mm, I don't know if I have a silver bullet, but I will give mitigation techniques. We could say it that way. One is I have to work on my self loathing. So that's what I do. I take responsibility. I try to work on my inner life. And um, I really try to align myself with truth, that I'm very powerful. And so are you, Jerry. And so is everyone listening. We're very powerful. Our imagination is so incredibly powerful. We create angels. Remember, we create angels. So I try to do practices that keep me aligned with that truth. Um, so that's one thing. And then when I'm black pilled, I black pill means that the world is going to be it. It's just going to crash and it's going to go to horrors, and there's really no stopping it. Sometimes, as content creators in the natural law objective morality space, it is easy to feel black pilled. So, well, we know that that's not true because there's still folks and there's still people who care and want to do well. Sometimes they just don't have enough information, but they care and they want to do well. So we have something there. So we could say the gold pill, right? That it's out there. We just have to keep working. If I'm black pilled, I'll express my anger. I have good, safe people that I can talk to about it. That's one thing. So people to talk to. That's a relational psychological. Someone safe that you can share with, friends, loved one that you can share with. So get that going. Second, I have to take a space. Like for me, if I had to do a podcast or where it was something very long and a lot of editing and stuff, I don't have that stamina yet. So knowing that I can do something sort of really quick for like 6 minutes, and that seems to fit for me. It's not super overwhelming. It's a little bit of work. It's right at the sweet spot. So find a sweet spot that you can feel, okay, this feels comfortable. Um, and then I pace myself. If I get too rushed of like, I got to do this, then I'm more likely that I'm in fear. And so I have to really slow down. And as a good parent, I don't give up. The father, the divine masculine says, you don't give up, you keep going. But yet then I take the nurturing approach and I say, okay, well, you might need a break, or you just give it some space, or you're worn out, or whatever I might need. So it's that in that inner parenting process too. So in my observation, at this phase in my life, that has helped me put out content and keep at a rhythm of it. But everybody has their own inner world, and some people can be really driven, and that's great. Um, um, but as long as I'm not, I'm always swimming. We just always got to keep swimming, right? As long as we're not, as long as we're doing something and not doing anything, then I think that's the rhythm. Sometimes I have to put in my mind. Is that helpful? What do you
That
think?
was super helpful. That felt like a therapy session for me.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
because yeah, this is a real thing, like sometimes I'm like, wow, I just, it's been about a little over a year now that I've been doing this, and I'm like, oh my God, how do people do this for decades? But just realizing that there is a rhythm to it, that there are going to be moments that are, okay, it feels like a setback, and just like you said, finding
Yes,
mitigating strategies for those periods, like emotionally preparing and like having these toolkits, the tool sets, and just getting through those times to then continue forward. And it's always, like you said, about continuing forward, not giving up.
yes.
Because I've definitely wanted to, on
Mhm.
many things, and it's like, and I have to realize that like that's a fear choice, and like you said, like taking a break also. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and also too, what also really helps me that just came to my mind is how do I say it? We're on this planet for a reason, right? You, Jerry, me, everyone here, we came to this planet for a reason. And the biggest problem right now is folks transgress against natural law. They steal those seven properties. They're either deceptive, they murder, higher up, big government organizations, big ideologies. They can really move into that, and it gets a mess. It gets to be a mess, and that's really the major of the suffering. So that's a problem. And I would like to see the world different before I left it, as all of us do that are trying to talk about objective morality. We want to see the world better. And it is I'm convinced of this. Yes, it is my spiritual duty to do so. So we have to talk. I've made a mark in the world where it's been a couple years, I know. However, I've made a mark in the world that this is my work. I've I've ascertained correctly on what the problem is and what the solution is based upon my research and a lot of help from great people and a lot of knowledge from great people. So now I share it. And that is part of the spiritual developmental process. Get off the base floor, take responsibility, work on your self-loathing, begin to realize, and this is a higher level, as I'll talk about in my vlog series, but then one of the middle level is realizing that um, there is no authority outside of yourself. It's only internal. And once you can really know that, then you begin to take the leap to jump the chasm into the spiritual world. And from there, you need a lot of divine help from your holy guardian angel as you navigate that space into the spiritual. And then when you're in the spiritual world, then you take that energy and then you give it back to humanity. Now, I'm not saying I've completely arrived in an area, but that is my vision as I'm navigating. But that is really, truly how you walk up the ladder or the tree of life.
That feels like a really powerful sort of, concluding point to I feel like I can't really follow that up. That was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Dr.
Thank
Dust.
you.
Yeah, you're doing I mean, we inspire each other,
Yes.
like I really truly view you like a brother in arms in this. And
Yes. Yes, Jerry.
you know, for folks that don't know, we tried to start, the Liberation Academy education. We've had to put a pause on that because I'm going through child custody issues, but we're still, putting in our contributions to the one great work for people. Again, it's freeasabove.xyz. We also have naturallawparenting.com and sovereignsystems.com, SOVRAN systems.com. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you.